Hello and welcome to the video. This is my overview and initial review of this thing here. This is the new GepRC CineLOG 35 HD. Now this is a bigger brother to a model that I do have here, which is the GepRC CineLOG 25. This is a smaller version and you'll have seen this in loads of videos because it's the one that I tend to put the new DJI cameras on. In fact, the camera on here is that new Phoenix HD camera that I looked at on Friday. This, however, it looks a lot similar to another model that's been out for a few months from GepRC, which was the CineLOG 30, but there's some major differences between this and the CineLOG 30, and I've had to figure it out because I'm recording this video, you're watching it on the release day of this product, but I've had it for 2 or 3 days before and I'm recording it before the release date. So as of recording this, I haven't seen the specs, I also haven't seen the final price, which always makes it a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to have to go through the technical specs and show you how nice this thing actually flies around. These frames are fantastic for getting your action camera on and for getting cinematic style footage. The battery goes across, which means you've got a lot more room for bigger batteries if you can fit them on, and you can easily get a full-size action camera. And on these CineLOG ones, you actually have a rubber mounted support for your action camera, also for the DJI HD system that's in here as well, and that helps isolate some of the vibration that you might see from the motors and props. So this one has quite a few differences if you've already seen a review of the CineLOG 30. First one is the camera on this is the Nebula Pro. I'd love to know where GepRC are still managing to find Nebula Pros in stock. Maybe they'll clue me into that. The Nebula Pro is my favourite camera at the moment with the DJI system. There are lots of other cameras around, but this one comes with that. The previous version, the 30, I think had the Cadix Polar on it. The other thing that's different is inside here, as we'll see in a moment, is an F7 based all-in-one flight controller, and it has completely different motors too. The motors on this are 2004 2550 kV as opposed to the 1404 3850 kV that was on the CineLOG 30. So standard stuff, links and timecodes down below. Let me show you how it comes in the box. Quickly go through the Betaflight setup. I think less and less people are interested in that now, but dump and diff are going to be below if you are. And let me show you some flying footage and talk about what it's been like to fly this over the past 2 or 3 days. So again, to go very quickly through the specs, this is an F7 based all-in-one in here. Not sure of exactly what the amp rating is. The motors on this are 2004 2550 kV, and it is a Nebula Pro camera at the front. Now, as usual, it comes shrink wrapped, and we'll see in a minute that surprise, surprise, it's also been flown and thoroughly tested, which is great. DJI units also activated. Underneath the model, there is a support and a mount here for something like a GoPro, I'm guessing that's for. Hopefully there's other ones. A little key ring, which is a nice addition. And then we have a whole bag of bits, and there is loads and loads of stuff in here. There's the pads for the bottom, there's antenna guides, the spare battery straps. There's even the connector to go onto the balance tap to power a skeletonized GoPro as well. Some really nice, thoughtful things inside this package from GepRC. Now, plugging it into the computer is very easy and straightforward because the USB ports are accessible without taking anything apart. Tick, V-good, GepRC, really smart design. So let's connect to the model and have a very quick whistle-stop tour of how the Betaflight stuff is set up. There's no surprises in here at all. So we'll click connect. And the first thing you notice is the data flash is absolutely full. This has been flown and tested before it was sent to me. Everything is working great, and we'll have expert mode to run through everything. We can see it's an F7 based processor. Again, that's an increase over the original CineLOG 30. Nothing really set up in here. MSP for the DJI stuff. The motor props are reversed, be aware of that. D-Shot's 300, surprisingly. I thought that would be 600. 8K gyro, but only a 4K PID loop frequency. Interesting because the F7 processor could handle a faster update rate. This is what is turned on. Nothing really surprising in there. And then very nicely, the D-Shot beacon configuration is also activated as well. And you'll see in a minute, you're definitely going to need that set up on a beeper. battery and amperage look like that. Failsafe is set to drop. PID tuning is set like this. Again, links below to the dump and diff if you want to go through everything. It's a very, very nice, smooth flying model, but that's really what you want for something that's designed to do cinematic style filming. Modes is definitely somewhere you're going to have to come in and have a play with everything. I would spend a bit of time setting this up, so you are going to have to plug this into your computer just to make sure that it's going to work in the way that you want to. The other tab I'd recommend you visit is the on-screen display tab. It's set up for telemetry back to your DJI goggles, so I would come in here and move everything around. The only other thing that's worth commenting is I did connect up to the air unit. Again, you can get to the air unit lights USB connector at the bottom without taking it out, which is lovely, although this is what it looks like underneath. And with that connected to the DJI system, you can see that it's on the latest and greatest firmware. However, DJI seem to have decided that they will take away the option for pilots to run anything but the latest firmware because they've taken those earlier versions away. I think there should definitely be more of a choice, and that choice should be down to the individual pilot rather than what DJI wants you to use. I know there are technical reasons and good reasons to upgrade, but that choice should be the customer's choice and the pilot's choice, not DJI's. Rant over, let's talk about how this stuff actually flies. First little clip I'll show you is it hovering indoors, just to give you an idea of the noise that comes off this thing. And hopefully you've got a sense of the kind of noise that you do get from it. It isn't quiet at all. It's louder than I expected. It's more like what you'd expect from a standard 5-inch quad. In terms of flying, the image that I selected and that's defaulted on the Nebula Pro is the 4.3 image, which I really like. And this is what it looks like. It is absolutely fantastic fun. Loads and loads of power on this, very responsive and absolutely fantastic to fly. Much more power than I actually expected. I didn't think it was going to be this much fun. It's a very smooth and stable flight. Again, you're getting that noise level of a 5-inch model, pulling about 28 to 30 amps in the fast forward flight, and it allows me to get really close to everything. And in fact, you'll see in a minute, it also allows me to get way too close to stuff. But rather than flying this like a CineLOG, this is just an example of how nice it is. Now the focus mode is set to auto on this flight like I always do. I was interested to see how well it works. This is a pretty standard area that I tend to fly around in, and you can see here it's actually working beautifully. But then we're not having that 16:9 where we're managing the edges. In conclusion, this is a much livelier quad than I expected, but the fact that the props are enclosed does mean you want to get close to stuff, and occasionally you will hit something. And in those situations, that beeper that's set up by default is going to be worth its weight in gold. So there is a lot to like about this CineLOG 35 HD. Again, I'm making this review before I've managed to see the website and the full specs, and I'm just going off my own personal experiences here. Obviously, the big thing I haven't seen is the price point. This is a really nicely put together model. GepRC really put a lot of time and effort into it. Just the way that all the carbon fibre is finished, all the tolerances, the screws seem to be not made of Chinesium. It's actually really nice. And the way it flies is beautiful, buttery smooth, absolutely loads of power, way more power than I was expecting, which makes it an absolute hoot to fly. There are some cute design touches in here, particularly things like access to the USB port for both the flight controller and also the air unit light that's hidden away here at the bottom. And I'm not having any problem with overheating at all, but then to be honest, I don't have that same issue with the little CineLOG 25 either. It just seems to be in a nice place that keeps it nice and cool. The vibration dampening for the camera seems to work very well, and I love the way that the battery is mounted across. That just makes so much more sense when you're trying to fit action cameras in the front. I wish more manufacturers would do it that way rather than give us a very small top deck with quite a decent sized battery and then not being able to push the action camera back so you can get the significant enough rake. Flight time is a little bit less than I wanted, even with the 2200 high capacity battery, but the tune is very, very good. It's very smooth. As you saw, the only issue I have with this is where I have no problem at all flying its smaller brother smoothly to get footage. When I go out with this, I can't help myself. It's just incredible fun to fly. It's like a very capable 5-inch model, so rather than just being limited to slow sweeping cinematic shots, which it'll absolutely do, you can also fly it like you stole it, and this is going to be a lot handier for chasing those faster wings when I'm doing those kind of reviews later in the autumn and winter. The image from the Nebula Pro is absolutely beautiful, as you'd expect, and the noise level, as I mentioned, is a little bit louder than I expected. These kind of quads tend to be relatively quiet, and I'm kind of used to this size. This is definitely built to be a bit more of a beastie, and it makes the kind of sound that a standard 5-inch quad would. So if you come out the gate expecting that level of noise, it won't be a surprise. Only one thing to watch really, and that is the fact that the battery does go a little bit quicker than I would like. I would have liked to be getting 15-20 minutes flight time out of this to give me a nice long bit of flight footage. And maybe, who knows, if I fly a bit more calmly, I might get a little bit longer. But I would recommend getting yourself some of those higher capacity batteries. You don't need ridiculous levels of C rating. You know, this is only pulling about 30 amps in pretty lively fast forward flight, so you don't need 100C battery to fly with this. I would get something that has a little bit more milliamp hours to give you a little bit longer. Maybe even something like the 21700 pack, the lithium ion pack, is one that I might try, and if I do, I'll post my results of what I find with that. So in summary, this is my favourite filming rig for chasing models around and getting cinematic footage. It's small, it's lightweight, it's absolutely brilliant fun to fly. The F7 processor with these more aggressive motors and the Nebula Pro just means that everything works fantastically well. If you are looking for a rig to do that kind of flying, and you don't mind the slightly shorter flight times and the kind of regular noise levels of a 5-inch quad, if you're looking for something to stick your action camera on, this should be towards the top of the list. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organised into easy to follow playlists that, if you're trying to learn a topic, will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.